So here we are, George.
Here we are.
You know, later on, I thought we would pass around a tip jar so we could collect money for our liable, defense fund.
Also air conditioning at Guantanamo.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start there.
Okay.
Why would ABC, Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know. And I'm not going to attribute motives. I will say that as someone who actually litigated libel cases, a couple of them, one actually against ABC in the 1990s, when it was owned by Cap Cities.
Well, Steve, they learned their lesson,
I don't know. I mean, and in that case, I was at the law firm of Wachtell Lipton Midtown here, and we represented Philip Morris when it sued ABC for ABC's news program that it alleged that the tobacco companies were adding nicotine, spiking cigarettes with nicotine, which they didn't have to do because cigarettes have nicotine no matter what you do. And ironically, they paid the settlement agreement required ABC to pay $15 million in legal fees. And that was a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a libel suit. It was a lot of money in 1996. It's less money now, but that was a real case where you could see a Virginia jury, and then we had some pretty. I mean, I'm not going to characterize the case. It was settled, but there was good reason for them to settle that case. This case was much different. I was surprised that the district judge did not dismiss it outright, but it's hard to get judges to dismiss cases sometimes because there are factual issues theoretical factual issues. It's hard sometimes to get them to dismiss cases depending on their temperament. But this case, okay, what happened was, and forgive me for being graphic, but there's no other way to do it. What happened was at this trial,
we're talking about the E. Jean Carroll trial, where Trump is accused of...
Trump was accused by E. Jean Carroll of basically assaulting her in a dressing room at Bergdorf's, and E. Jean alleged that there was rape. And when she testified, she was absolutely clear that he had grabbed her by the you-know-what and inserted his fingers. But she was not absolutely certain that he inserted the other appendage that he had pulled out. And so the jury came back with, and New York makes a legal distinction between penile penetration and digital and other kinds of penetration. Rape has to be penile penetration. But it didn't matter in this case because if one or the other were shown, he was going to be held liable according to the instructions on the verdict sheet. So the jury basically said no to the New York State rape charges and yes to sexual abuse, and that was the basis for the first verdict. And so the issue is whether or not, what happened is after the verdict, maybe I'm getting too much detail here, but after the verdict, Trump said, aha, he did his total exoneration act like he did after the Mueller investigation, which was false. And the argument was, see, I didn't rape anybody. It's like, excuse me. And then he tried to countersue E. Jean Carroll or something like that. And he was arguing that, see, she lied because she said she had been raped, and the definition of New York law. And the judge said, one of the best judges, if not the best judge in the Southern District of New York, Lewis Kaplan, he basically wrote 3 different opinions saying, oh, come on. Okay, under many states' laws, digital penetration constitutes rape. They don't make the distinction that New York does. And in the colloquial sense, and this is what we're talking about because this is a libel and defamation action, most people would view that as rape.
And that's what the judge said.
And the judge said it 3 times, at least. So what happened is Stephanopoulos does screw this up. He screws it up by saying, the jury found rape, the jury found rape, the jury found rape when he's questioning Nancy Mace. And that's what Trump sued on. But the problem is there's a doctrine called substantial truth in libel law. And it basically means that if the true facts are pretty much as bad as what the person who's the defendant in the libel case says, then the plaintiff can't recover. And so think about what the apology or correction here, leave apart what they said yesterday in that settlement. The apology or correction is saying, oh, we're sorry, Mr. Trump, because we falsely said that you used your penis when you in fact used your fingers. I mean, that's ridiculous, okay? There is no way, to my mind, that a fair-minded court of appeals, a fair-minded judge after a trial could say that's a defamation under that doctrine. Not only that.
Yes, we have another problem.
I got another point. Another problem is, I don't think Donald Trump, it's possible for him to win a libel judgment. How do you damage that man's reputation? You laugh.
But think about this.
But I'm not saying that to denigrate him, although I'm happy to denigrate him. Think about it. You've got a group of people on one side who you could just say, you could tell me tomorrow that he shot a bunch of people on Fifth Avenue, and it would not change my opinion of him because I think he's the lowest form of life on earth. And that's like a big chunk of Americans and probably most of you. And then there's the other chunk of people who basically will not believe anything bad, or at least admit to it, like my ex-wife, anything bad about Donald Trump, and they won't admit to it, and they pretend not to believe it, and they do the and they watch Fox News and Newsmax and pretend none of the bad stuff actually exists, and it's all just a giant conspiracy involving half of America. So what's going to move the needle? How could he possibly be defamed? To my mind, the only thing that you could ever say that would change my opinion of Donald Trump would be for the better, because you can't. It's basically like the Kelvin scale. We're at absolute zero. Anyway.
Now,
so that's long story. I went on too much, but you asked the lawyer a legal question.
I did.
And the bottom line is, it's the notion that you could have that they settle this for money, as opposed to a correction saying, sorry, we technically didn't get the New York law part right, is absurd.
And $15 million, before you've even taken Trump's deposition, we know what a fabulous witness he makes, you know, in depositions. He can't help but lie. But you said something that was kind of interesting. You said half the population won't believe it. Actually, they believe the bad things are actually good things. And that's even worse.
Yes, but they won't say that. They won't say, they will not say, they'll say, look, I do agree with you that it's not half the population, but a good chunk of the people who would never change their minds about Donald Trump, 30, 40%, not leaving there's like a small number of voters that could go either way on a good or bad day, which unfortunately was a bad day recently. They're not going to change they're not going to admit the truth about him, even if they know deep down the truth.
Correct.
And that's, but I think the point still holds.
Right. So if we eliminate the legal reasons for settling, we have the great capitulation. And I must say, I think my ultimate boss overpaid, or underpaid, actually. He may have to pay more. He only gave him $1 million. Why won't Trump come back for the other 14?
Well, he's not paying for it, but he hasn't sued you guys for libel yet.
Right. Yeah. But, why, you want to get the head of the class. Why wait?
Yeah.
You could just anticipatorily, give the money, which is what they did. And you have people like
Would you love
Jeff
it? You
Bezos?
could say this about Bezos.
I know. And I'm not independently
fearless.
wealthy, so, when I get kicked out the door, you'll all support me.
Fearless. In the tradition of Katie Graham, who basically told, who didn't give a damn that John Mitchell said what he said.
God bless her. God bless her.
Yeah.
These people are throwing themselves at his feet. They are prostrating themselves to get on his good side. I must say, I'm a little surprised. I thought he would be elected before they began this, but they're not losing any time.
You mean he'd be sworn in?
Yes, right. But he would actually be inaugurated. But they seem to be lining up very early in the game to get on his good side. And it's, to me, obviously, it's very disturbing. These people are the most wealthy, the most powerful people in America, and they feel compelled to capitulate to this guy.
I don't get it. I mean, if you gave me $1 billion, I would blow it all.
Yes.
Okay, pretty quickly.
Yes.
I would have blown it all probably in the 2020 election.
Yes.
But I wouldn't be afraid of anybody.
Yeah.
Because I'm not afraid of any. I mean, I'm not really afraid of any because nobody. I just it doesn't. He
Right,
doesn't
it's
scare me.
never too
Once you sort of realize what a boob he is,
Yes.
it's hard to be afraid of him. And you know, if he ever sued me for libel, okay, you can't sue me for saying that he's a boob because that's A, it's true, and B,
It's opinion.
and B, it's opinion. But you know, it's like, okay, fine, let's litigate. I'm a litigator. This is great.
Exactly.
And I also, you know, I'm not afraid. I'm going to go on TV and talk about, okay, what's the, you know, like it's like it's if he sued me for saying like I've been saying he's a narcissistic sociopath under the definitions of the DSM-5 for 5 years. Please sue me for that.
Yes.
Because then I get to prove it in court.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And you know how much money I could raise for that defense? Okay. And then I would personally see if I could take his deposition.
Yes.
It would be fun.
Yes.
So, I mean, you know, please, Donald, come at me. Do it. Do it.
And that brings us back to the age-old question. Is he evil? Is
Yes.
he ignorant?
Yes.
Is he both?
Yes.
Yes. So that is how you get someone like Kash Patel or Pete Hegseth nominated for real jobs.
You know, Richard Grinnell wasn't bad enough for him.
Exactly. He's getting some cockamamie
Right.
ambassador to nowhere.
Because he wasn't.
He was too sane, much too sane. He
right.
only offended the Germans,
Right.
being the German ambassador.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's...
Actually, I think what really happened with him is he was the guy, the numbnuts who, excuse the language, who told Trump that he should go to talk to the libertarians, apparently.
Yeah.
That didn't work out so well.
Yeah. And he also started paying people to say nice things about him on the internet.
On X, Twitter, yes.
And Twitter, you know, listen, that's kind of lowbrow.
Well, it's not as bad as Nancy Mace, who was basically sock puppeting her
Yes.
by saying, "Oh, poor Nancy, she was hurt by this person who tried to shake her hand."
Hey, listen, I've been hurt. I know what hurt is.
Yeah, well, that was your dog, right?
Yeah, you know, don't blame the dog, though.
The dog pulled too hard, and she went.
Listen, I knew that week was not.
But I like the
going well.
color of the cast.
Thank you. I got to choose it, actually. This was the day before the election. My husband being the good.
That was an
trooper he is.
omen, then.
It was. I knew this was not going to work out. That plus the elephant at the Washington Zoo named Kamala died. Yes.
Oh, we're entitled to a do-over.
Yes, exactly. It seems like the stars.
Kamala should be able to reject electoral votes now.
Exactly. And, you know.
Right? That's just not fair.
I think there were a lot of illegal immigrants who are actually voting for Donald Trump because they wanted to go back to the home country. They wanted the free ticket back.
Free ticket back
to the home country. So, yes. Yeah.
Look, it's like, you know, she says that and we laugh and it's absurd, but is it any more absurd than anything else we've been seeing?
And you have to understand, the people who have invested enormous faith in this guy, who have, you know, made fools of themselves with the family, who have given him money, who have done all sorts of things, they're going to get screwed. Think about it. Today, it was announced that Donald Trump is thinking of privatizing the post office. This is not a good thing in red America, in rural places where you can't get delivery if you don't have the post office.
Like idiot me, I paid $30 to FedEx stuff when I could probably just put a stamp on it.
Right. But that's
and I don't know what the price of eggs is.
Yes,
and he's going to cut my taxes.
Right, but
like,
these people would do better had they elected George and me, because Donald Trump is going to cut the post office. He's going to pass tariffs, which is bad for farmers. He's going to take away the illegal immigrants who do all the work on the farms. So it's not like he's going to do them any favors.
The cost of labor is going to go up, and people are going to realize they can't get things done. The cost of their, you know, iPhones and Android phones is going to go up. But okay, sometimes people have to learn stuff the hard way.
And I have to ask, I'm kind of moving into the touch a hot stove kind of reflection on the election, which is, this is what you guys wanted.
Yeah.
Let's see what he has in store.
Yeah, I hope he does well. No, I will say, I hope he's the best president in American history. This time around, He's learned his lesson, that he is just statesmanlike and sane and exercises good judgment and is not self-interested and is empathetic and all of these things that are contrary to the diagnostic criteria that I've identified in the DSM-5. It would be great. In fact, I joked the other day that maybe RFK Jr.'s FDA, because he's HHS, so FDA, maybe they will approve a drug that will make him sane.
Right, that really would be something.
Wouldn't that be great? I would tomorrow. It's like, listen, I'll eat the plastic in this bottle. I would do anything to see that happen. I'm rooting for Donald Trump.
Yes, but this is not happening in our lifetime or anyone else's lifetime. I know. I know.
Lib.
You know, inside the Beltway, you know, it's fried my brain. What can I say?
Yeah, and she says it like she says the word safe on the Upper East Side. You know.
Yes. So he is going to do what he's going to do. And it's not like Democrats can really stop him. They don't have the votes for anything. So I realize people are upset. I'm upset.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in the American people. I'm infuriated with the American people. But, you know,
you got something to write about for 4 years.
This is true.
And have podcasts.
Yes, but more importantly,
it's good for you.
More importantly, I can be a rebel in my own house because the mainstream media is now, as we talked about, kind of capitulating. So I get to like thumb my nose at, you know. It's
fun being Joan of Arc, isn't it?
Yes, it really is.
Joan of Arc.
Yes, exactly. This is what's so fun, you know. Yeah. And I do think of Katharine Graham, you know. That was the lady, if you recall, the infamous Watergate episode when John Mitchell
gets called in the middle of the night saying, hey, we're running the story saying you're running the slush fund for the Republicans. And he goes, oh, Katie Graham tell Katie Graham she's going to get her tit caught in a big fat ringer. And then in the movie, right, Jason Robards playing Ben Bradley says, well, print it, except take out the words her tit. And then the Bernstein character, who was played by Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman, yes.
Why? We're a family newspaper.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it does pain me that the media seems to have capitulated. And, you know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so mamsy-pamsy? And there are two explanations. One is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers would pick up the Washington Post and they would have more readers. What is the logical fallacy here? Yes, reader. And there is nothing that the Washington Post could possibly do that would have those people take out a subscription. But they're convinced they're in there someplace.
But, and I'll go farther than you might hear, but if you happen to run some company that does business with the United States of America, and you also own a newspaper, maybe you want to be nicer to the guy. And that's the problem. I don't know what the LA Times guy's problem.
I don't. This is. By the way, he has a meter now, a bias meter. So I got to think, you know, the person who programmed this must have had a field day.
How do you program morals into AI?
Right, exactly. Right? Like, I think I am not biased at all. I am just accurate, deadly accurate. So.
Right. Okay. So the bias meter is like, okay, you got stories about an axe murderer, and then you got a nun. Okay. And there are a lot more bad stories about the axe murder. Is there bias against the axe murderer?
Yes, exactly.
I think the computer would say yes.
Exactly. So that's a problem. The other problem, of course, is access. Everyone wants to get the interview. No one wants to be thrown out of the White House. Oh, yes, they make such a fuss about it. I've been thrown out of the White House, or I've had my pass revoked. No, they don't want that. They want the big interview. They want the interview.
Well, you got to give Jim Acosta some.
Yeah, he is. I mean, but there's only one of him. He is the Sam Donaldson of our era. You guys all remember Sam Donaldson.
That's the thing about it is like, I don't know where all the courage went.
Exactly.
That's the thing that has bothered me. I shouldn't be here. Okay? I was just quietly toiling.
Yes,
50
minding his
second
own
inspector,
business.
30
yes.
years, mostly minding own business. There are a couple of exceptions.
Yeah.
But nobody knew who I was. And the only reason why I'm here is because everybody else just chickened out.
Right.
And it drives me nuts.
Yes.
And I have, I don't have as much money as Bezos, but I have enough money to basically give people the finger.
Right.
And so that's,
right.
And I'm having fun.
Right. And I got to say, it is more fun telling the truth. And
yeah,
it is more fun.
Actually, it's easier telling the truth because you don't have to keep your stories straight.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, you could take all my emails,
right,
and you could print them all, and it's like,
consistent, yes.
Yeah, I've said worse on television.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a reader the other day who asked, have you ever written anything nice about Donald Trump? And I had to go back. I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if I have. I actually found something. I applauded when he appointed Jim Mattis as...
Look, he appointed some decent people the first time around.
Right, but since then I couldn't find too much. But
they didn't last very long.
Right, but I said to them,
he learned his lesson.
As soon as he does something good, as soon as he picks someone,
he did. The vaccine was good.
He was the one who took
Operation whatchamacallit was great.
Right.
I mean, Congress had something to do with it, but that was great.
Then,
and then he disavows it. Now he's picking.
Right, because you don't want to have too many people be healthy.
Yeah.
And by the way, RFK, aside from the fact the vaccine thing, this man, had a worm in his brain? And he is going to be head of HHS?
He was probably better off with the worm in his brain.
His brain, yes. And raw milk? I mean, these are sort of, I don't want to encourage him to repeat these things because real people will get
I don't think
hurt.
the stable genius pill that I posited earlier.
I can't figure out an angle for this. But I heard a great argument against him. One of our House conservatives said, he's pro-choice.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
We should get rid of him. I said, okay.
Is that who I'm thinking of?
Yeah. We should get rid of him. I hate, but there is...
Good, let them fight about that. That's fine, that's fine.
There is no one Donald Trump won't screw over. You have to understand this. This idea that, you dance with the one who brung you, no, not Donald Trump.
She used the word over there in case anybody wants to sue.
Yes, exactly. Right. So, no, he is going to screw... And I think you could even convince him to screw over Putin. And I've got a plan for that. This is what I
trick him?
Right. No, this is my plan. Putin is a loser, and he really is. He's losing in Ukraine. He's losing Syria.
Yeah.
He's a loser. Why does
he's got to have the North Koreans fight his battle for him?
Exactly.
That's pretty sad.
And he's short, and he's ugly. And why would he want to hang out with a loser?
Don't go near any windows.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I think there's a possibility. See, and this is what, by the way, foreign leaders are now figuring out how to do. How to convince him to do things that he thinks are winners for him, but will actually preserve this country.
And I can't fault that. I mean,
there
are some I was talking to an ambassador from a friendly country the other day.
For now, they're friendly, yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to say which. I mean, if I say more, I'd identify the country. And this ambassador was talking about the leader of that ambassador's country and how, that person is going to have to get along with Trump. And I agree. You have to. I mean, that's like you have to manipulate the guy.
Right.
He's easily manipulable, actually. And the problem is, you can manipulate him, but you cannot control him. I mean, and I think. The people who tried to control him are gone. People will try to manipulate him on the margins, but if he's going to go off in a certain direction, it's going to be like, what's her name, the Florida lady who's going to be chief of staff. Right. Just go like, yeah, okay, we can't do anything about it, it's fine, whatever. Right. And that's going to be the big difference. You're not going to have people like Cohn, the guy from Goldman Sachs, taking stuff off his desk when he's not, the Resolute desk when he's not there. And you're not going to have people, he's just going to find, he's hiring the worst people.
Right. And, in the first term, you remember, they tried to convince him he didn't have the power to do certain things. He didn't have the ability to get out of the Iran deal. But then he discovered, I have all the power. I can do whatever the heck I want. I'm president. And so he's trying things now that he actually doesn't have the power to do. Right. But I think we should each pick.
And he shops around for the answer he wants.
Well, he wants until he gets it. Yes.
Which is what he did in the weeks leading up to January.
Right. Until he found John
Everybody
Eastman.
told him no.
Yeah.
You've
but
lost.
John Eastman told him what he wanted to do, and therefore.
So then that's
all right. So what is your favorite pick? For me, it's a tie.
Favorite in what sense?
In the sense
for
of
entertainment purposes?
Yeah.
Or the one I like the most in terms of who I want to see confirmed?
No. We're long past that. We are talking about the most absurd. I personally think, when I thought Carrie Lake was going to be the ambassador to Mexico, I thought that was bad. But now that she's going to be head of VOA, Voice of America,
but he can't. But it's
he
actually
can't even do it.
He can't even do that.
There's a commission.
The VOA director is appointed by the head of some board.
Yes.
Which
has Democrats and Republicans.
Democrats and Republicans, and is, the Secretary of State is like the tie-breaking vote.
Exactly.
So he can't really actually.
Right.
Anyway.
But in a way, that kind of makes sense, because doesn't she speak for the majority of Americans? This is what we're.
She didn't speak for Arizona.
Oh, no.
She lost.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So that kind of was my favorite. But then we had Kimberly Guilfoyle, and I thought, did she think ambassador to Greece was to the Broadway show as opposed to the country?
I saw that coming, right? You saw that coming.
I mean, really? I mean, this is, listen, we all want to get rid of our exes.
She wants to pose for a new statue.
Yes, we all want to get rid of our exes. But isn't it a little bit more to ask someone to appoint your ex or your intended ex to a foreign country? What do you think Greece is thinking? Like, why us? Why us? Why do we have to be the one?
They have no idea.
It's... Right, but it's okay. Mike Huckabee is going to Israel, so I think we should get a Jew to go to the Holy See. Don't you think so? They got one, we get the other one.
That's an interesting concept.
Yes, because he has no kind of conception.
Look, we're okay with the Old Testament.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it was amended, but yeah. Okay.
Yes. You can see what problem this would be. This is why it's not happening. But we
were actually having a conversation in the green room. Oh, not this green room, but the green room. Back there, about how hard would it be for me to learn the Torah and get converted. We decided that's not the country. I'd love to visit Israel, but that's not my country. I have to find someplace. It's easy.
Exactly. So we're all working on our plan Bs, right? Where you're going to go if they really do come after you. So my first plan B is to go to California. I realize it's not another country.
That is as foreign a country as you can imagine, right?
I realize, and maybe to you folks, it's not the same country, but it's far enough away. It takes a long time to get there. They don't take anything that happens in California all that seriously. So that would be plan number one.
You'd be stuck in traffic.
I'd be stuck in traffic, but hey, listen, I came in over the George Washington Bridge.
Not as bad as it was when we were kids.
So yeah. So that's plan one. Plan two is to go to the most war-torn, hated country in the world, which is Israel. So that would be preferable to staying in America with Donald Trump.
Well, they're having new settlements in the Golan.
Right, exactly. Yes, exactly. And the third is, they have these kind of golden parachute countries that if you simply buy a house or buy a business, you can.
Portugal was that way, but I think they tightened
up. Yeah, they upped it. Yeah, the people got kind of wise to it, and they figured out that all these Americans were upping housing prices.
I have a diplomat friend from Malta.
Yeah, there you go. So what is your plan B? Do you have a plan B?
I don't know. I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I'm going to Banff for vacation. I will look for real estate. If I buy a ski house, which I've always wanted to do, it's probably going to be in Alberta rather than Utah or California. But I don't know if I can. It's hard to.
Yeah, I see. My problem.
I don't think the political asylum case is there yet, because I think people are afraid of the. Look, it is true. He has all the tendencies of an authoritarian. He's a narcissistic sociopath. All of your cult leaders and fascist type leaders are of that same psychological bent. But I think what we're not we're going to see we're not going to see jackbooted thugs in the streets, except if you're an immigrant, you have a...
Then you do, yes.
What we're going to see is so much corruption.
Yes. And
that's what we're going to see.
I think that's what we're going to see. This is, we have never had this level of corruption.
What's going to be interesting is whether or not these media types like the Bezoses and the LA Times guys and so on are going to hold back on the news reporting as opposed to editorializing. I don't think they're going to have a choice, because one of the things that is sort of interesting about the Trump people is they're not loyal to each other, and not even to Trump in some ways. I don't mean the Trump voters, but I mean the people around him. They are all as self-interested as him. They are all trying to make money by acting as gatekeepers to Trump. And that's what we saw with
Boris,
my friend Boris Epstein.
He was selling 10,000 bucks.
More than that. 50. I think it was more than that.
All right, well, that's cheap.
Okay, so sue me, Boris.
Yes.
Yes. And I think, but that's, a lot of people are going around Washington basically saying, people who were favorites of Trump, who may not go into the administration, are saying, I can explain him to you, and I can explain your case to him. And they're going to make a lot of money doing that. It's corrupt as hell. It's not necessarily illegal, but that's what we're going to, but some of it will be.
Right.
And because what Boris did was arguably extortion.
Correct. Now, what we have already seen, of course, is these people did not get to be billionaires by being dumb. Now, they're not geniuses. They're not, unique human beings. But think about Elon Musk.
Saying not dumb? Musk is smart at a few.
He made an investment of $250 million or so. He bought this election. Well, his net worth has now gone up by billions. So that's how they're going to make money. These people are going to be self-interested, self-dealing.
I'm thinking more of the political consultant type. But you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yes, they will be very self-interested. That's why the billionaire, there's never been a cabinet like this that is filled with billionaires.
No, actually, there's some suggestion. I'm not an expert in this level of granularity in American history, but they said Harding's cabinet was pretty much like that.
Yeah.
But
it's, I think...
That didn't work out so well, by the way.
Yeah. Oligarchy just refers to rich people running the show, and it's getting harder to...
This is more kakistocracy.
Yes.
Kak is a word we all have to learn how to say 10 times. Kakistocracy.
Yes. And
where the worst people govern.
Right. The worst of the worst and the hackish of the hackish.
Right.
Dealing in self-interest.
What are you saying about Matt Gaetz?
Hey.
All right. So
let's try to think of something good that might happen in the Trump era.
You okay?
Yeah. So let's see what we can think. Well, let's see.
The only thing I can think of is that there was something to Henry Kissinger's madman theory.
Yeah.
Where, Henry Kissinger had this theory that if the North Vietnamese thought Nixon was crazy, they come to the peace table. Of course, the North Vietnamese won. Okay?
Right.
So I don't know.
I don't even know that. And, I think we should all take a marker here, because the economy that was the worst of all times, the countries that are laughing at us, in a month, and
you don't think the price of eggs are going to go down?
It will be the best economy in the world.
Oh, it already is. Did you see that there was like a poll of Trump voters?
Yes.
Like 2 weeks after the election. And they
said
suddenly the economy all of a sudden the economy was like great again?
Yeah, exactly. So listen, I think we should take note.
Can't make this shit up.
Right. Understand what he is being handed off. Think about this. The Middle East. Israel has never been in a better position. Syria took a loss. Iran took a loss. Russia took a loss. There's one ceasefire already in effect. There may be another one. And he's being given to this. You can understand Democrats' frustration.
He lucks out. He lucks out a lot.
Because Democrats do all the work. They fix up all the messes. They hand it off to the Republicans because no one is really satisfied with fixing things up.
There you go
And
again.
then the Republicans.
Actually, you were a Republican once.
I know. It was quite a gambit we had, quite a racket. This is how they operate.
I must have read her columns like in the 2000s, and I was like, God, she's terrible. It's awful. It's awful. And it turned out she was right about everything.
Exactly. But this is, people say, well, haven't you guys changed? I don't think I have changed a bit.
I haven't changed.
I am in favor of legal immigration. I'm in favor.
Ronald Reagan was in favor of legal.
Exactly. Ronald Reagan.
Remember his last speech?
Yes, exactly. A pen to immigrants. I
Said
believe
that
in
what makes us Americans is not race, color, or creed. It was the beliefs that we have.
The desire to be an American. Yeah. And strengthen the world. America's a force for good in the world. Limited government, the rule of law. All of these things used to be Republican principles.
Also,
and now,
they didn't like criminals.
Yes, they did.
Now they seem to like criminals.
A lot.
Yes.
A lot. Yes.
34 counts would have been a bad thing.
Yes, a long time. It also would have been a bad thing to open up the prisons and let people who had assaulted police officers out of prison.
Yeah.
And people who had trashed the Capitol. Yeah, that would be like a bad thing. But now it's a good thing. So.
Are you trying to make me depressed?
Yes, exactly. Okay. No, we were not going to depress you guys. Now.
By the way, don't be sad.
Yes.
Don't be sad. Don't be angry, because that's what they want.
Yes, they want you to be
That's the reason
paralyzed.
why they like Trump, because they don't like people who they think are superior to them.
Yes.
And so they want, there was like a guy, there was this article in Politicon interviewing some guy from New Hampshire who was a relatively well-off business person.
Yeah.
And a former military guy. And this was before the New Hampshire primary, and they asked him, well, you want things to go south because you want to hurt all these people you don't like. But that hurts you, doesn't it? And he goes, okay.
Right, exactly.
No, that's what this is. I mean, that's part of the Trump shtick is
getting us mad, angry, depressed.
They actually want things to go south because they think it hurts the people they don't like.
Yes, exactly.
And it's really, it's perverse.
Yes, it is perverse. But of course,
it's sad.
The people like us are the last people to get hurt.
I'm getting a tax cut. How about you?
Probably, yeah, probably. But the people who get hurt are the suckers who voted for him in the first place, and those are the people who get screwed.
It's actually, I make a lot of jokes,
beyond.
but it's really sad.
We make a joke about it, but it's those people's whose lives are very badly affected. And the other thing, the other reason I used to be a Republican is I hate whiners. I do not like people who complain, who blame other people for their plight.
I absolutely agree with that. And the whining competition is over. Whining competition is over. It's like the Democrats used to be big whiners, and it's like they can't complain.
Right, exactly. Well, you have billionaires complaining that the economy stinks, woe is me. And they're complaining because crime.
I took these classified documents to my house and people are mad at me.
And they raided my house to get them back.
They raided my house and they found the documents there, but they had no right to raid my house.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It is a constant whine fest.
People think he's a tough guy. He is the biggest.
Right. He is constantly persecuted. He is
on the
constantly,
planet. It's incredible.
He is constantly the victim. He is constantly persecuted.
Well, that's narcissism.
Yeah, that is narcissism because they are simultaneously.
And that is really true. I mean, that is this country is suffering from basically an overdose of narcissism.
Yes. Yes, and he is by far the richest, luckiest person to ever get to the Oval Office, and he's not happy. If you take any joy in
the
this,
Trump people are still. The Trumpists
have you
are
noticed
still
how angry
mad.
They still are. Why are they so?
You want to make a Trumper mad? Just say whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not kidding.
I mean, we have a reason to be mad. We have a reason to be upset.
Yeah, my country, which was founded on principles of the rule of law and democracy, is being taken over by a guy who basically thinks he can do things that he's not authorized to do by law and thinks he can start not counting electoral votes and so on. I should be mad about that. I am.
But they're upset. They're mad.
They're mad.
They're mad.
Because we're still here.
Right, and they can. That's kind of the shtick too.
Yeah.
Because they have to keep people mad. If people are content and people
that is it. I mean, that's part of. That's part of. I mean, I think neuropsychologists will tell you it's like being angry generates endorphins.
Absolutely.
Like instead of going for a 6-mile run, these people just watch Fox News.
Exactly, and they get worked up.
It's self-reinforcing. It's
is.
like you feel like a victim. It feels you, and you get a sense of identity.
Yes.
It's like being a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Yeah.
Exactly. And, this constant sense of anger, this is what Twitter is all about. This is what has made...
Yeah, but there are a lot of bots on Twitter. I don't think they feel a lot.
Right. What?
I mean, there's one bot that keeps... I think he's a bot. And he's called Brooklyn something. And it's like every single time I ever tweeted something. And I don't really tweet anything anymore because I went over to Blue Sky, which you all should do. He just said, "Oh, how's the buffet?" Like fat man. It's like, okay, dude, if you really exist and you're not a bot, it's like you support Donald Trump and you're calling me fat.
And besides, George is felt now. Listen, he looks fabulous.
Yeah.
He looks fabulous.
Thank you.
Yes, he does. He does. All right. So we are going to, I think, raise the lights a little bit. And we are going to take questions. Can we raise the lights a little bit so we can see our hands going up? I say loudly, without any response.
I love being able to see people. It's much better being able to see people.
Trump, loser, rapist. I like that sign. Okay, so.
No, you have to be careful after George Stephanopoulos.
Okay,
digital rapist.
Here is the rule, guys. Here is the rule. Your question must be in a form of a question. You may not do a soliloquy. George and I are the ones who get to do the soliloquies. Yes, in the red jacket. And stand up and speak loudly. We'll repeat it, but speak loudly.
I'm Cuban American, so I'm very loud.
Yes, good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. My question is for George.
Uh-oh.
My family fled a left-wing dictatorship. I was born here.
Let it out. It's okay. No, it's okay.
Yes.
No, I get it.
Legally speaking, can he do what he's threatening to do to take away citizenship for those of us who are foreign?
No.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
The question was,
not.
Let me just repeat it for the folks at home.
This is the birthright citizenship question.
Yes, this is the birthright citizenship question. Donald Trump has this idea that he can unilaterally change the Constitution. The Constitution, specifically the 14th Amendment, says if you are born on American soil, you are a citizen, period.
Here's what the language says. I mean, I may have this not fully correct, but it says something like all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States.
Right.
And what that means is there are two ways to become a citizen. One is to be born physically in the United States. Let's leave apart the question of
military bases
overseas
the
and whatnot.
Panama Canal, right? All those.
Or naturalized, which is a process you have to do, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And what the argument is, and it's complete bullshit. Am I allowed to use that?
Yeah, you can say it.
Is that, they're not somebody who is born in the United States but was born to parents who are here illegally are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That is flatly wrong and false. What that meant is that if you are let's say Jen and I were married and we were foreign diplomats at the Cuban embassy, which doesn't exist, and we had a child, that would be...
God, that kid would be funny.
Yeah. Oh my God. That child would not be an American citizen because as diplomats, Jen and I would not be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. But if you're not a diplomat and you're just somebody who came across the border legally or illegally, and you have a child, and that child is physically born on Lexington Avenue,
yes,
that child, no matter how the parents got there or when they got there, they could have just gotten off the plane at Kennedy. That child is an American citizen. Full stop. Okay?
Right.
Now, you can argue that that creates perverse incentives, but hey, I'm a conservative, and the Constitution is very clear in words of simple words. I can understand somebody making a policy argument that that shouldn't be the law, but it's in the 14th Amendment.
All
and
right.
And so basically, that has zero chance of winning, and you should not worry about that.
All
there are
right.
other things to worry about, don't believe me.
Yes, I'm going to take one of the questions from one of our viewers from the live stream. The question is, are we doing enough to prepare for the inevitable awfulness of 47,
47.
and companies incoming disaster? What could we do? And
Yes
are
and
we
no.
prepared?
I mean, look. I think it is perfectly healthy and normal and good for people to, cable news viewing on CNN and MSNBC is down. I think it's good to decompress. I think it's good to just take a break from all of this.
Not from us, but those other people.
No, even from us. We don't need to be beating the drum every day, because right now, it's not necessarily doing any good. There are things that will be bad that will come soon enough. Don't you worry. And that's the time to really, really figure out something to do. And that being said, I know that there are a lot of people, a lot of groups that are doing a lot of planning and organizing and meeting as we speak. In fact,
Yes.
I'm going to a confab, on which I'm not authorized to say, on Tuesday, and I'm on conference calls. People, they understand
Yes.
what's going on, but they understand that the fight has to be different this time. We know a lot more now, and we know some things don't work and some things do work, and we know that he's going to be worse. And I think, for example, the corruption is going to be so bad, and people voted for the price of eggs being lower. It's like, okay, we're going to see these kakistocrats and oligarchs making a ton
Gazillions of dollars,
and
yes.
consultants and so on. And even Donald Trump now is conceding he can't do anything about the price of eggs.
Right.
Okay? There'll be plenty of time to say, see, we told you. Now, the problem is it's hard to tell people that they effed up.
Right.
And they were conned. But there's going to be plenty more ammunition in the not too distant future. And it's probably okay to turn down the volume right now and have a nice holiday season. Okay? But remember, here's the thing. For everyone out there, don't be civil, but do not think it is not civil and not polite to tell the truth.
Yes.
This man
Yes.
is a sexual abuser. He's a criminal convict. He is a narcissistic sociopath. He doesn't give a shit about anybody other than himself. He tried to overturn the Constitution. All of these things are indisputably true. And if you're at a dinner table, I don't care if it's Thanksgiving, you just have to say that. If you're on a train and somebody strikes up a conversation with you and they tell you, well, I think Kamala Harris lost, la, la, la. Tell them what you think. Don't get angry. Just state facts. And if they say, oh, that's not true, it's like, where do you get your facts? Tell them what the facts are. And don't do it with anger. Don't do it with malice. Just state it. State the truth.
Right.
And make fun of the guy.
Right. By the way, I love the criteria they use for a fact. Something that comes out of scientific studies that's been confirmed over decades, like the polio vaccine does not cause autism. That's not a fact, but there are drones over New Jersey. That gets to be a fact, right?
Oh God, even Governor Hogan fell for that. But anyway, here's the thing. It's like what Trump. There are many ways to characterize Trumpism, and I've used, and they're uncomplimentary, and I've said all that. But the late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan said that everyone is entitled to their own set of opinions, but not their own set of facts.
Exactly.
Okay. The MAGA right, and I don't even call it right, they're not conservatives by any stretch of the measure. We are conservatives because we actually want to conserve the things that make
are good.
America great.
Like sanity,
these people,
truth.
Right. These people think they are entitled to their own facts. Okay? And that is the key to responding to them.
Right. Exactly. Yes, sir. George. Stand up so we can hear you. Yes.
Paint the scenario of what you think will happen over the next 4 years, keeping in mind, will we have another election? Keeping in mind who the cabinet picks could be.
All right. So the question was, what's going to happen? What's our scenario? So we put on our Kreskin turbans and get out the.
Yeah, I can do my.
Right, and get out the.
Johnny Carson.
Yes, the
Carmack
crystal ball.
Magnificent.
Look, my sense. Let me go first, and then we'll get George, because George will have plenty to say. What I think is going to happen is that a lot of the bad stuff we think is going to happen is going to happen. But we're going to see much more incompetence, much more corruption,
Correct.
much more fighting, much more false start, much more, oh, we didn't say that, we didn't promise that. When he figures out he cannot deport 11 million people, he will say he's already gotten rid of the criminals.
He built the wall, after all.
Right, so
and
it's all taken care of. So we are going to be in the process of redefinition and claiming
Moving
things,
the goalposts.
Moving the goalposts. And so I think it's going to be bad, but I think it is not going to be as horrific as we might imagine if you had someone who was stable, focused, had super smart people around him. I will say this, however. Democrats have to get their shit together. Yeah. Democrats have to be able to say, and say this, only this, because apparently the vast majority of Americans do not care about democracy. They must be able to say, they are making your life worse. They don't care about you. If they are taking away vaccines from children, if they are not regulating guns so that people can go into schools, if they are cutting off life-saving treatments that children, they do not like your children, they do not care for your children. Pro-life, excuse me, women are dying and infant mortality is up in the great state of Texas. So don't tell me that they care about you. And that very basic fact, they do not care about you. Your life is not getting better. Democrats are very bad at saying that over and over and over again, but that's what they have to say over and over and over again. The other side is very good at saying when things are good, that things are
They're also
rotten.
good at taking credit for things they didn't do and for just lying about whether things
exactly.
are great.
Crime is astronomical. Actually not.
Crime
It's
went
low.
down at noon on January 20th,
Isn't
2025. Amazing.
Suddenly.
America is great again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, the stock market, hey, it's never been higher because we had a president in between who raised it
All
up.
right, I get like a little reply, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little.
It's okay. I talk too much anyway, so it's okay.
All right.
So my reply is I adopt
right.
Jen's statement in its entirety, but I would add the following. My biggest concern about Trump being elected again, which was my concern in 2020, was that the country would become ungovernable. Okay, I don't actually fear that we will have a night of the long knives or a crystal knocked or a jackbooted thugs in the streets and totalitarianism, the night of totalitarianism descending on the United States of America. But I don't say that in an optimistic way. I think what they could achieve, and part of what they actually deep down psychologically want to achieve in their nihilistic reptilian brains, Trump and his enablers and a lot of his voters, is to basically destroy institutions and to make them not function because they resent other people and they resent the institutions. And that's conceivably achievable. They can do a lot of damage, and they can try, the problem for the world. It's not just a problem for the United States. It's if you are, you're a European prime minister, it's a problem for you, is that they could make the United States of America non-functional and ungovernable. That's my fear. And that's what we have to fight against and guard.
Exactly. We will take one more question so we don't end on that very depressing note, George. Yes, sir, right here.
The Bills beat the, right here.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you. In today's New York Times, Nat Cohen has a foot-long list of different groups of people that the Democrats missed. Do we think that part of the problem was that the campaign was run incorrectly in some way?
No, I think it's so easy. The question was basically, there was an article in the New York Times, I didn't read it, but basically it said, here are the things that the Democrats missed in terms of voters and issues, right? A long list of groups and people that the Democrats failed to appeal to and persuade. Do I have that? Is that a fair characterization? Yes. That may be so. That may be so, and that there are lots of micro explanations about what happened in this election, about persuading Hispanic men to vote for a woman, an African American Indian woman. There's so many different explanations, and there's truth probably in all of them. But the fundamental problem was that you had a solid core of 40 to 45% of the population that was determined. Whether or not they may have told pollsters, some of them may have told pollsters that they were open-minded, but they were determined to put a narcissistic, sociopathic, criminal, deranged individual back in the White House. And there was nothing we could do about that. And once you get to that point, everything becomes a crapshoot. And I have to say, I am a great admirer of Kamala Harris. Okay? She's more liberal than I would want, ideally, in my perfect world as a president. But she's a good person. And I told her this the other day. I had the fortune of being invited to a Christmas gathering at the Naval Observatory, the vice president's residence. It's like she did. What she managed to do after being selected as the nominee in the middle of the summer out of nowhere.
In 100 days, 107 days.
She ran basically as close to flawless a campaign as was possible. She wiped the floor with that piece of in the debate. She did. There was no question. It was like he looked like a fool at the end of that debate. And she was right there to kind of look at him like, what is your problem? It was great. She won this election on points. The problem was there were 40 to 45% of the public who just did not care and would not be moved. And as a result, the election becomes a crapshoot. That's the problem. Okay? Maybe the Democrats could have done something better. I frankly think, there's something to the effect, the biggest issue in this campaign really ended up being, I hate to say, it's true, misogyny.
Yes.
This was the most misogynistic campaign we have ever seen in America. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for the 19th century.
And that actually includes Hillary Clinton, by the way, because it is so unbridled, unabashed.
Oh, it was outrageous.
So physically disgusting.
For a guy who was adjudicated, I'm going to say it right, of sexual abuse, it was all par for the course. Right. People voted for that. That's the thing that bothers me the most. Well, actually, that and the cowardice of Republicans and people to stand up and say the truth, and the owner of the Washington.
Yes. So let me leave you with this. Virtually every incumbent Western democracy got voted out in the last few years. COVID takes a toll, inflation takes a toll, And no matter what you presented to a certain segment of people, the economy was awful, everything was awful, the press perpetuates the sense that everything is awful. Well, now the Republicans...
They own everything.
They own everything. They own the Congress, they own the court, they own the presidency. And at some point, reality pops back up. The American people get to say, oh, maybe this wasn't the best idea. Maybe this hasn't worked out. And whether they decide to admit it in the quiet of their own homes or not, there will be other elections. And the best thing I can say is because this was a high turnout election and Republicans finally won not a majority, but a plurality of the popular vote, they are not game about suppressing the vote and monkeying around with the mechanisms of voting. That will essentially, I think, survive the next 2 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So yes, we are going to have...
I would bet $1 million, I shouldn't say that, that Trump's approval ratings in 9 to 12 months will be in the crapper. Okay? Now, but the problem is, it was that way last time around, and he'd still have 3 more years left.
Right.
And it's going to get worse. I mean, it's worse because, again, as we talked about, there are no controls on him now because all the people who tried to deflect him and dissuade him are not going there anymore. And it's worse because he is deteriorating. We saw it during the campaign. He is losing it. He's got it back, his mojo back a little bit because everybody's coming to him and kissing his ass and kissing his ring. But once he's a narcissistic sociopath who's deranged to begin with, and he's pushing A. These people don't get better; they get worse, and that's scary for a guy, who's going to be given the nuclear codes at noon on January 20th. But I don't. He's probably got the biggest library on Section 4 of the 25th Amendment than anybody on the planet. But I don't think he has whatever it is that Trump has. He does have a certain, I hate to say it, charisma for certain people. I don't think Vance has that. I think Vance is a good and smooth liar. I think we saw that. And I hate to say he's a Yale Law School graduate, where I went to law school. We saw that during the debate against Governor Walz, but I just don't think he can carry it the way Trump has. And I actually don't think he's quite as irrational as Trump is. And I don't want to be optimistic about that, but I'd take my chances with Vance over Trump, actually.
Well,
that's how bad things are.
We have overstayed our welcome and indulged all of us, and we want to thank you for coming out, and thank you for your support.
Thank you for coming.
And thank you for coming.
I hope you enjoyed it.